What's up everybody, it's Hosey. Now you guys know that I love a good story. So today we're going to investigate the chilling tale of the fast food serial killer. Let's mosey to Nashville. So the first attack actually happened in Donaldson, Tennessee. So early on the morning of February 16th, 1997, a taller man with black hair enters the restaurant before its opening. And when he goes in, he tells the employees that he wants to apply for a job. Now this so-called applicant actually forced two employees working in the opening shift into the cooler. There he shot them execution style and took all of the money in the cash register, including all the change. Upon further investigation, the authorities actually found that he used that money as a down payment for a car. But this was only the start of this suspect's killing rampage. Now the next location takes us up to Hermitage, Tennessee, actually right up the road from here. On the evening 1 month later, March 23rd, 1997, our suspect approaches a McDonald's right before closing time. So we're here on Lebanon Road in Hermitage, Tennessee, where at gunpoint, two employees who were in the back, probably taking out trash, were forced back inside the restaurant. This was pretty close to closing time. In the storeroom, the intruder then shot three employees execution style. He then attempted to shoot another employee by the name of Jose Antonio Ramirez Gonzalez, and the gun actually failed on him. So he resulted to stabbing him about 17 times. Jose ends up playing dead, and the intruder eventually goes to the cash register, empties it, takes about, I think, $3,000 out of the cash register and leaves. When the scene was discovered, Gonzalez was then taken to the hospital, and he ultimately actually survived the attack. And part of the trial that later takes place, he was able to testify against our intruder. And the last and final murder scene takes place at a Baskin-Robbins in Clarksville, Tennessee. Now, for you guys who don't know, Clarksville, Tennessee is like 60 miles away from here. So here's a picture of it. Please just work with me here. I'm out here with some Canada geese. Look at it. Hi. Your friends are way over there. What are you doing over here? Okay. Anyways, on the evening of April 23rd, 1997, our suspect went to the door after closing and somehow persuaded the employees to let him in. Which I don't know how they were persuaded. With all the news and precautions many restaurants were taking because of these murders, you would think that no one would trust anyone at this point. Moving on. So basically, alright, two employees were kidnapped, and that was Angela Holmes and Michelle Mace, and they were taken to Dunbar Cave State Park. And the following morning, their bodies were found along the lakeshore with their throats slit. I'm gonna get out of here. So how did he get apprehended? And who was he? That's what we're gonna investigate next. It's actually kind of amazing to me how a lot of these places are still up and running. The Baskin-Robbins, the Captain D's, and the McDonald's, all three of them are still running to this day. And I don't understand how, like, what had happened here doesn't develop some sort of stigma. I mean, I don't know if just people don't know about it or if they don't care. I don't know. Okay, and we're back. So who was this person and why would he commit such horrendous crimes? Well, to start out with, there was a Paul Dennis Reed that had been recently fired from a dishwashing job at a Shoney's restaurant. Shoney's is basically this fast food chain that is headquartered here in Nashville. And this happened the day before the Captain D murders. And according to his previous manager, he let him go because he lost his temper and threw a plate at another employee. That would get you fired. Now, Paul Dennis Reed shows up to his previous manager's house under this guise that he was begging for his job back, but he was armed with a knife, and this ever so conveniently happened about a month after the most recent attack at the Baskin-Robbins. So when the manager declines to give Reed his job back, Reed very violently tries to get into the house, but then finds that the screen door was indeed locked. Now the manager's son begins videotaping what's happening, and Reed ultimately flees the scene. So ultimately, Reed was trying to kidnap his manager, he failed and fled the scene, and later that evening, Nashville police arrested him. So how does this relate to the fast food murders? Well, Reed actually was the one that was convicted of 7 counts of murder and had heavy evidence against him at each of the fast food locations. So this was their guy, and he was sentenced to the death penalty. Now, it was interesting politically reading what happened because he had sparked such a uproar in the anti-death penalty community, mainly because he was considered to be mentally challenged. However, the Tennessee Supreme Court actually upheld his sentences. But before he was sentenced to the death penalty, he actually died at the Nashville General Hospital on November 1st, 2013 due to pneumonia and other upper respiratory issues. Kind of random, but interesting. So what was actually wrong with Paul Dennis Reed mentally? Why was he considered to be mentally challenged per se? Well, I found it very interesting because usually with most serial killer cases, there's some sort of mixture between the crimes that they commit and their sexual desires coming together as one, whereas with Reed's circumstances, that didn't seem to be the case. There was no pattern into who he decided to kill. There was no pattern in terms of which locations he went to. It was all fast food restaurants, but it wasn't one in particular or one type of victim that he particularly focused on. It all just seemed kind of more or less random. With the research I conducted regarding Reed's mental illness, I found that he supposedly had a congenital brain defect, where his brain was physically deformed, missing a portion of his left temporal lobe. Now, this is the part of the brain that processes information from other regions of the brain, facilitates memory, and integrates emotion with cognition. Now, Reed claimed that there was some sort of invisible force that was controlled by the government called scientific technology that was in his brain. He claimed that it videotaped everything that he did, basically put thoughts into his brain, and caused excruciatingly painful sensations throughout his body. Essentially, he lived in this delusional reality that the government was controlling everything he did and he was just a lab rat for their experiment. He even went as far to say that the judges, lawyers, and prosecutors during his trial were all scripted under scientific technology, and at the end of the day, he would receive a multi-million-dollar reward for having participated in it. He also believed that once this experiment was over and the government released the videotapes that they had of his brain, he would be exonerated and set free. Now, I have so many questions about this, it's not even funny. I mean, how much of this information is actually true? And then it also makes me wonder, was he faking insanity in order to get those anti-death penalty activists all riled up? Because this reality he was living was very meticulous and thought out. Either his brain was complicated enough it could create that, or he was faking something. Or there might have been some truth to what he's saying. I mean, you never know. The technology that we have today wouldn't be that far off. But I would love to see what your thoughts are on this, so feel free to comment down below what you think. Anyways, I hope you guys found this video very fascinating and intriguing. I most certainly did with all the research that I went through for you guys. And if you did, please give this video a like. That helps me understand what you guys are appreciating and valuing in terms of video content that I can put out for you guys. And with that, let's keep moseying together. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Pay attention to the lens. Oh my god. I have a bad habit of looking at the screen off to my right instead of at the lens. Oh my god. Jose, gosh, he has such a long name. Talking to the manager. I don't know if that sounds right.